I've been part of an interesting debate lately regarding the role of the people and the states in the creation of the federal government and the creation of the Constitution of this country. So we'll ponder that next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Well, hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution, teach the rising generation to be free. As always, you want to find out more, head to the website, constitutionstudy.com. That's where you'll find out everything I'm working on. You'll get past recordings of videos, audios, web articles. Hey, you can ask a question. You can invite me to come speak to one of your events. You can just reach out and give me a topic that you'd like me to cover. Everything starts right there at the Constitution Study. I'm going to ask you to help share this video and share the other things you find with your friends, your family, your neighbors. It's people who do that, who share what we're doing here, that will help bring what I believe will be a change to this nation as the American people realize just how much they've been misled about what the Constitution actually says, and as they learn what their rights truly are and how to defend them. So with that, let's talk about the subject for the day, and that is the role of the people and the states in creating what we call the United States of America. Now, many people will note two very important points. The preamble to the Constitution starts out with three extremely famous words. We the people. It's we the people who created this country, but that's only part of the story. But it's very important to understand that it is ultimately us, we the people, that formed this more perfect union. The one that thinks it's really a mess right now. That also means it's our responsibility to do our job in overseeing the government that we created. Yes, we the people created the Constitution, which created the federal government. It created Congress, it created the presidency, it created the courts. It's done through our work. But you'll often hear the Constitution referred to as a compact between the states, or you might hear that the federal government is a creation of the states. Well, that's also true. So how can these two competing ideas be true? How can we the people create the federal government and the states create the federal government? Well, it comes down to understanding what a government is. You see, a government is just an organization. We treat them as something special, but at their core, it's just a group of people who get together to do something. I've discussed this in other podcasts, and I'll put links in the description if you are interested more. But the general idea is people get together and we form governments to do work that either we can't do alone or that we think would be inappropriate to do alone. And that's where the understanding of the relationship between the people, the states, and the federal government really needs to come from. See, we the people formed ourselves into states. So we think of states as territory, it's land, and we think of it as governments. But the states really are people who've gotten together and say, yeah, we're going to be this one state, and we're going to create a government over us, and we're going to delegate to that government certain powers, and we're going to tell that government to do certain things. Well, one of the things that we told the governments of the states was fix the Articles of Confederation. And they said, you know what, we can't fix the Articles of Confederation. The representatives we sent to the Second Continental Congress said, it's a mess. We'd be better off to start from scratch. So our representatives at the state said, yes, go ahead and write a new document, but we get to say whether or not it's going to work. We get to ratify what that document is. Now, the Continental Congress worked on the document. They created the Constitution, and they signed it. The representatives all agreed to it. They signed it. They sent to the states. The states debated it. They had the state ratification debates. And eventually, each and every one of the original 13 states signed on to this compact that we call the Constitution. This compact created the federal government. So, yes, we the people, through our states, created the Constitution. We the people, through the states, created the federal government, and we the people, predominantly through our states, are responsible for the state of the federal government. It's something I say all the time. If you don't like the way Congress works, remember, they're working for you. They're your agents. They're doing things in your name. So if you look at what they do and go, how can they do that? Here's a better question. How can you let them? Part of the reason I found the debate interesting was the initial discussion about the polarization between the people and the states. And what we find is that we have this hierarchy that was created where we, the people, are at the top. We form states, and through those states, we formed a federal government. But if you look at today, what do we see? We see the federal government on top. The federal government is in charge of almost everything nowadays. The states, well, they're treated more like political subdivisions than they are actual sovereign states. And we, the people, we're pretty much only cared for when somebody wants your vote. But it's important to recognize and understand the true nature of the governments that were created. So yes, we, the people, did actually create the Constitution through our representatives at the states. And yes, the states representatives signed the Constitution, and the states ratified the Constitution, and the states are the only entities authorized to change the Constitution. Congress can't. Even a convention of the states can't. The states as a whole have to agree, at least 3/4 of them, to a change to the Constitution for it to be valid. It's also one of the reasons why I say it's important that we spend less time focusing on what the federal government is doing and more on what the states are doing. See, if we get better control over our state governments, if we require them to be constitutional, to abide by their oath to support the Constitution, we'd have less issues with Washington. We'd have less issues with the federal government. Sure, there's still a lot of things we have to fix over there, but we'll stand a much better chance when we restore the states to their role as sovereign parties to an interstate compact, to a union of sovereign states that has a republican form of government in its central government that is responsible, limited, and has enumerated powers. So what do you think? Now, I'm kind of curious. Let me know in the comments if you started out more on the we the people side or more on the state side and where you ended up. Do you see my point that it's not either or? It really is one through the other. It's understanding that the government is not a completely detached entity. It's an organization that we have created to do some work and that we're responsible for. And I'll hope you'll take responsibility for the governments that you created, your state governments, your local governments, and those you send to the federal government. Most of all, again, share this around. Start a discussion. What do other people think? This is actually can be a very interesting debate if it's done, not only if it's done without rancor, if it's not yelling and screaming and name calling, but if it's actually a reasonable, rational discussion on the role that we the people have, the role the states have in this country we call the United States of America. Again, tell me what you think. Share this video. As always, head over to the website for more. And if you've got other topics that you'd like me to discuss, please do so. I love answering those questions. And I'll love to see you again when I'm here the next time on the Constitution Study. Have a great day.